All right, welcome in KSO Postgame Live. Mason Voth, KSU fan, Drew Galloway here with you. Better update this, just so people don't get confused. What we're doing here, K-State. This is the first time that we've talked to you after a game since Bowling Green. So K-State has played 2 games since then. Monday night, obviously, there was not going to be anything worth talking about from that one way or the other, unless they lost, which would have been improbable. And then, the Seton Hall game at that point, it's like, this is kind of what you should expect. And for the first half today for K-State, it was something you didn't expect. The team built an 18-point halftime lead, got the first bucket in the second half, so they were up by 20 with less than 20 minutes to play in the game. And then a lot of the team that you have come to expect under Jerome Tang showed up. Creighton got this thing all the way down to 4. And made it very, very uncomfortable for K-State. And I think you're probably lying to yourself if you thought they were going to hang on to this one. When they played Cal a couple weeks ago, the whole time I was not worried that they were going to lose that game, but they let Creighton get back in this thing so quick and have enough time to treat this like a natural comeback in situation that the Blue Jays almost pulled it off, but K-State was able to close out rather strong down the stretch in the final minute or so and make sure that Creighton wasn't able to pull that off. So what's that do? Moves K-State to 7-4. Creighton now drops to 5-5. And we've got a lot to talk about in this one because David Castillo was kind of the star of the night for K-State. Abdi Bashir got off to a blistering start. He's really the big reason why K-State was able to win this game because he helped build the lead so much. And then PJ Haggerty has another confounding night given what he had done last year at Memphis and how he started this season. And then I thought probably one of your better games from guys that aren't ever going to be stars or major contributors in a game for K-State, but Kamari McGriff did some good things. I think you liked some of what you saw from Doreen Buka. That was good. And then Elias Rapiak, I think you could make the case that this was probably his best game so far at K-State, where he did some things offensively, still loves the foul quite a bit, but definitely some positives to take away there. So, Drew, let's start with you. What do you make of the K-State victory over Creighton?
Yeah, don't apologize for winning on the road. We did kind of all three talk a little bit about Creighton right now is not a good team, but yeah, who cares? That's still a game where they had 18,000 people there. They'd lost to 3 really, really good teams of the 4 losses. So to see that, and then you see the first half come by, and it kind of gave me that hope. And I talked a little bit about it in the pick and preview for this game of like, if you would have told me 3 weeks ago, K-State was playing in Omaha with how the two teams looked to start the year, I kind of thought that K-State might have won going away. But then you start like that, and it's like, okay, maybe this is going to happen anyway. Like, Creighton is like really falling apart. But they came out and looked a little bit sluggish. Defensive struggles, I think, led to the offensive struggles. We've talked so much this year already about how if they're getting stops continuously and getting rebounds and forcing turnovers, the offense looks so much better because they're able to get out in free flow and have a lot of rhythm. Couldn't get in a lot of rhythm offensively in the second half because they were just so bad defensively and losing a lot of shooters. And sometimes it was just, I know it was one of his better games offensively, but sometimes it was just Elias Rapiak wasn't facing the correct direction defensively. So it was a choppy game, up and down game, but you'll never apologize for winning a game on the road against a power opponent like this one. David Castillo, I gave him a lot of grief last year and into the off season. I clearly was wrong. He has really turned the corner. I don't know what you can do with David Castillo in terms of what goes on with him, because I think that they are clearly better and at their best when Haggerty and David Castillo both are on the floor. But in a game like this, where, Abdi Bashir was shooting the ball really well, you probably can't have Nate Johnson sitting on the bench. Elias Rapiak was playing well offensively and good enough defensively outside of the 5 fouls, but whatever. And then Kamari McGriff was playing well. it kind of made for a little bit of like a what do you do with Castillo then? Because you got to take somebody out. And at certain points, like it kind of looked like Haggerty needed to be the one that came out. But the growth from Castillo has won K-State 2 games now. And I'm sure that there will probably be a third or maybe even a fourth that they win because Castillo has gotten so much better from where he was a year ago.
Yeah, Castillo was the best player on the floor in the second half, which is saying a lot because I think he overshadowed PJ Haggerty and Nate Johnson, and even Abdi Bashir, who's kind of got a little bit colder in the second half, which is going to happen. Shooters like him are going to be streaky.
But some of that too is him just taking terrible shots.
Yeah, I mean, and please stop shooting 2-point jump shots like that. I mean, I can handle. I will take any force 3 from him, but the dribble drive fade away 2 from the elbow, that one needs to go away. Again, no, I complain about 2-point jump shots plenty. I'm sure people get tired of it, but yeah, Castillo really carried that team, made plays down the stretch, was the big catalyst in getting the lead back up to 13 after Creighton cut it to 6, kind of midway through the half. And then, I don't want to pile on, but then you put PJ Haggerty in, and Creighton immediately cuts it back down to 6 or 7. And then K-State does enough down the stretch and really keyed in the final 3 minutes by 2 big Castillo plays, getting to the rim and then making a big alley-oop pass to McGriff. So, we talk about it all the time. K-State needs good guard play. You got the game from David. You had Abdi's first half and ended up making 6 out of 12 you'll take anytime. Nate Johnson wasn't fantastic and efficient on offense, but he did have 4 steals, 6 assists, so you'll take that from him. He had 4 rebounds. He kind of did the things you expect from him. So you got pretty good play from 3 of your 4 guards. Haggerty had another rough game with the .81 efficiency, 9 points on 12 shots. That's not what you expect from him. And then I think you made a good point. McGriff, Rapiak having pretty solid games from those 2. You're getting decent play from your bigs. And even Buka, he's not going to give you 25 or 30 minutes, but if he can give you a good 10 to 15 like he did today and he has lately, you can live with that. And he's proven to be capable in some of the games against power conference opponents. And that's kind of what I didn't know that we could expect from him. And, you got to give him some credit for making those kind of plays and adjusting to the game. The best of all the Euros. Like we've talked about it before, he's the one that's made the adjustment the best and the one we least expected to have an impact. So credit to him. The other thing, you kind of thought maybe they'd cool off from 3, and they did a lot in the second half. They only hit 1 from 11. But to me, the key was they only went 9 of 25 from 2 in the second half, 36%. And that was kind of what really opened the door to me for Creighton as they struggled inside the paint. They still ended up outshooting Creighton from 2, 42% to 42.5 to 41.9% from 2. And that's saying something because that's kind of been McDermott's MO is his teams are always like top 5 in the country in 2-point percentage. And to hold them to 42% inside the arc, to me was a big deal to winning this game.
Yeah, so there are a handful of things that I want to talk about today and kind of get into. But I think because his performance was kind of the story of this, David Castillo is the one that we probably need to start with and what to make of this moving forward, because there are a lot of people that have already said in the chat, and I think have the same sentiment of, Bracket Cat says, I've seen enough. Castillo needs to be a starting point guard, has the juice. I hope Jerome Tang moves Castillo to the point and all this. And in some ways it doesn't really matter because, the whole start versus not start thing, it is weird that it means so much in some ways, depending on how long you're going to let starters go out there. Because okay, you don't start, next dead ball, we're getting you in there. We want you in there early. But like David Castillo, that was the story this week, is that he went to Jerome Tang and said that he thinks that he's better suited to come off the bench to play for K-State. So I don't know that you're going to get to see some of those adjustments. But as we kind of saw today, like it ultimately didn't stop David Castillo from playing a decent amount of minutes, but only 23 today. So it's not like he was out there an overwhelming amount, but the distribution of the minutes was a lot more spread out than typical. The most minutes in the game belonged to PJ Haggerty with 34, so that's down from what he normally had been playing, although it had shrunk in the last few weeks. Nate Johnson next at 32, and then you get into 28, 28, 25, 23. So it's not a ton, but I don't know that you mess too much with what David Castillo is doing right now, because while he has improved, there is a little bit to, like, his defense can still get you burnt sometimes. So if he's going to give you 19 points on 11 shots in 23 minutes, you absolutely take that. And 3 assists today with no turnovers while he was out there as well. So that's also significant for David Castillo. But what do you guys say of the David Castillo needs to be starting, needs to be getting more minutes or more time here over others? How would you handle that moving forward?
I think that he probably just needs more minutes. I don't necessarily know if he needs to start, but it's clear that he is in his best and at his most comfortable when he's coming off the bench. The 2 games that he's started this year, he hasn't really gotten into a flow offensively. And there's something to it, maybe, that K-State also lost the 2 games that he started. So it might just be that he needs to come off the bench and just play more starter minutes. Because I also think that kind of with that, you would imagine that the clearly the best 5 is still having like Elias Rapiak and Kamari McGriff on the floor at the same time. Because all of the wins have came with those 2 in the starting lineup together. So you'd think that maybe Abdi Bashir would go to the bench, but he's so much of a weapon to begin the game that if he can come out and just hit you in the mouth with 4 threes like he did today, like that's something that you need to have in the starting lineup and not come off the bench. Nate Johnson is too good to not start. And then PJ Haggerty is supposed to be your best player, so he's not going to come off the bench. So it just turns into like who isn't going to start if you start Castillo. But I think that with the flow of the game going, if there is a game like this where Castillo is playing really, really well, he needs to play more than 23 minutes. I mean, there was even a point in the first half where I was getting a little anxious and getting a little annoyed because Bashir had that 12 right off the bat, went to the bench, and then didn't come in for 6 minutes. Like that is something that needs to be fixed and get cleaned up a little bit as the season goes along. Where if somebody is like clearly in the zone and in a rhythm, why are you taking them out and having them out for longer than they need to be? And that almost burnt K-State today in the second half. David Castillo hits the bench and Creighton immediately goes on an 8-0 run to cut it to 4. Like if he is clearly, or any of them are clearly doing something well, and K-State's a lot better with them on the floor, why are you taking them out?
Look, I'll never disagree with questioning coaching decisions, with how stuff like that works. Because I'm with you. I think you ride guys when they're playing well, and they can handle it. And I think there are probably too many times where I don't know, Jerome Tank's feel for games, like, we can be honest, it's not very good. People complain all the time about how he uses his timeouts. Why certain guys are out there. I mean, how many times do we look and K-State's got a lineup with 3 of the 5 guys as offensive liabilities or zeros out there. So I think he gets married to certain ideas and then just, sticks with them, and it's gonna look bad at times, and other times you're gonna get by with it like K-State did today. How do we think this overhaul of David Castillo's game has happened? Because he did look unplayable for a lot of last year. And, he had that little stretch in there, but then, like, there are times where you just kind of go, does it look good because he's gotten fortunate? And also there are a lot of other guys on the floor that don't care. And, like, you could never actually question the effort that he played with. We saw that today. I think that's one of the things, like, obviously there is some statistical stuff that David Castillo did today that was really positive, but, like, he felt like the top guy out there kind of rallying and bringing some of the intensity to the game. But how can this overhaul happen? And is there anything that like you've picked up on? Because I know you're always looking through this stuff. Like anything in your memory bank where you can picture a guy making this big of a jump from what he was last year to this year's team?
He's got to be one of the biggest jumps of improvement from one season, especially from a freshman to sophomore season, that I've ever seen at K-State in any regard. I don't know about other places, but I think the key is diversifying his game. Like last year, I think like 70 to 80% of his shots were threes. He was almost exclusively a three-point shooter. He didn't seem comfortable driving and finishing in the paint. I think, to me, that's the biggest thing that's been the step up in his game, is his ability to get inside the lane and score it, and even distribute once in a while, like the alley-oop we saw today, and improve the shooting. Like I thought maybe he would get better at one or the other, but to get better at both, shooting the ball and getting inside the paint. And I think he's slowly gotten better on defense. I still think defense is his biggest liability right now. But I mean, I don't know if, the new two older coaches that came in that have helped out got to be part of that development, but also just playing with different guys. Like I think maybe the locker room last year didn't do him any favors, and maybe he's just much more comfortable with the guys he's playing with this year as well. Like there's lots of factors. I don't think it's any one thing, but that ability to get stronger and be able to finish in the paint, to me, has really opened up his game on the offensive end. And then we're slowly seeing him get a little bit better on the defensive end as well. So, and my biggest thing with him, I don't think he necessarily needs to start, but 23 minutes, he needs to be 28 to 30. I think he can handle it, because I didn't think he was gassed when we took him out on those last several minutes. And that would be the biggest thing, is don't take him out when he's playing that well down the stretch. I would say, and I think, and I get part of Tang, like he's going to ride with Haggerty probably longer than any fan is. And because we're going to be, I think, given what we've seen the last 5 or 6 games from Haggerty, it's tough to have a lot of confidence in him. But Tang has always been a ride with his guys kind of coach to a fault. And I think we saw that a little bit with putting Haggerty back in the game and him immediately struggling once he came back in. So again, lots of comments in the chat. I do think he struggles with that rotation and when to sub and who to sub and how he does it. Hopefully he can figure that out. I think part of it is limiting, playing less guys, which we finally did today. Probably part of that is he was forced to, because Moby's hurt. And clearly they've kind of given up on Kostick for now. So he's kind of forced to play just 8 or 9 guys. And I think that helps limit him making those decisions. But they've still got to figure out. And I think number one on the list is David Castillo has to play more.
Yeah, you gotta go to him more, because you can't ever really hurt yourself by playing guys like that, when you could obviously see the passion and energy that Castillo played with today. And now look, there are going to be some days where the offense just isn't there, and if he's not making shots, then okay, it is really down. But like, you can put up with some things and give him a little bit of a longer leash than some, and people should be comfortable with that, because obviously he inspires guys. And now you're right, Jerome Tang is going to be loyal to a fault in some ways, maybe because he has the guys and he's kind of married his reputation to him. So you got to put him out there. As we saw a lot last year, there were a number of guys that I'm sure if he had an endless bench or could have swapped out players at any point, he would have for a lot of the players on last year's team. Not CJ Jones, though. We know that because he brought him back. But Haggerty's in a weird spot, because there are 3 guys I really want to talk about in this setting now, because you brought up Andre Kostic. He's a part of it. Before the season started, I thought that for this team to really be good, that their 3 best players by Big 12 play or the end of the year would be PJ Haggerty. That's obvious. Nate Johnson, pretty obvious. And Andre Kostic. The way that I thought that would translate. And I also, like, do you get much value in going overseas if you get the production that you've gotten so far from those three guys? Like, that's a lot of wasted time and resources to get minimal production out of them, especially when Kostic was supposed to be the best one out of them all. But those three guys have struggled the last however many games now. Haggerty since Kansas City has not been very helpful. And from my thought on that, I wonder if he's having a really hard time adjusting to the offense not having to be 100% centered around him. Now, he's clearly K-State's best player, most talented, all this other stuff, but there are enough other guys that can pick up the slack on offense for K-State that I wonder if him having to play differently for the first time in his career, because at Tulsa, didn't have to worry about that. Memphis didn't have to worry about that. Now he's got more offensive options around him than ever. That I think once things kind of started struggling for him, I think he got a little lost. And that's why I think so much of this is a mental thing that he's going to have to either decide if he gets it corrected or it's just going to continue to be this way. Because we were talking about his free throw shooting before we started here. He missed more free throws today, and he's been atrocious at the free throw line for a guy that in his career was never a bad free throw shooter. I mean, it wasn't fantastic at TCU, Tulsa, Memphis, relative to the other things he could do offensively. He was around 77% and then jumped up to 82 last year. But he's at 73 right now for K-State. And I actually think it's going to dip after today. Those numbers haven't updated. So I just think there's a lot of mentality things going through that he's, for whatever reason, not adjusting well enough at this point. And I don't think that's something that Jerome Tang and his coaches can fix. That solely falls on to PJ Haggerty. But I think he's having an issue. Not that it's like he's upset about it, but trying to get a feel for how this thing works when you don't have to be the guy every single possession. And a guy like Abdi Bashir, I think, has adjusted fairly well given how he played or had to play at Monmouth last year. I give him some slack because it was even more crazy than what Haggerty was expected to do at Memphis. But I think he's struggling with that. And then he's just thinking through things too much, and he didn't go to the basket today when he could have. And instead was trying to draw the foul, getting the guy to ride his hip, and didn't go to the hoop, took it out, kicked it out, whatever. There's also a loose ball in the first half that I thought would have been a no doubt, like you dive on the floor and try to get involved and at least force a jump. And he just he did the Cam Newton Super Bowl fumble move where he just kind of stood there and watched it. And that made me question some things about I think he's having a hard time adjusting to what this new normal is this year. And it's not like it's anything crazy because he's still the best player on this team or going to be given the opportunity to. Nobody's trying to take the opportunity away from him. But now that it's happened over such an extended period of time, they lost so many games in that stretch too. It does have me worried about what the rest of the season looks like from him. And the only person that can get it right and get it fixed is going to be PJ Haggerty.
Yeah, he is the only one that can fix it. And it's just scary when you think about that. It's all kind of happened post the Nebraska game. Like, he just looks like a totally different player in a bad way. Like, it feels like he's doing a lot of foul baiting. He's not even like attempting a real shot on some of these shots. There's also the point where I think that he is finding that living in a tougher conference is probably not going well for him because some teams just aren't letting him go right because they know that that's all he's going to do and not go left. So I think that he's just having a tough time getting everything figured out a little bit mentally. And like we talked about before we started recording too, sometimes you go through the draft process and you figure out what they want you to be. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go do these things. And sometimes it's not that easy to do what you haven't done in your entire career. But there is something like going on with him from a mental standpoint that has caused all this to happen because he was so good 3 weeks ago where, we would talk and joke about, like, if he's not playing well right now and has 26 points, what's a really good PJ Haggerty game going to look like? And I think that there's also something to, he's just not used to being a true point guard. And I think that sometimes he tries to force it early on to his teammates when he should just go score. That is why you're here. That is why everybody wants you to be in whatever and what you should be. Just go score. If you can score and draw some more defenders towards you and you can get assists that way, cool. But you don't have to immediately go and try and draw some fouls or try and get teammates involved when you already have a step on your defender.
Yeah, I mean, the telling stat today, in addition to the struggle of scoring, was he only had 1 assist. So just overall, probably one of his worst, not his worst game this season. That would be Seton Hall, I think, but one of his worst games that he's had. And he's had now 4 games out of the last 5 at 0.81 offensive rating or worse. And going back over the last 2 years, he's only had 2 in a row that bad in any stretch in the last 70 games before this season. So it's telling that, and part of it is the step up in competition, but they played decent teams in the non-conference before where he didn't have these kind of struggles. And we saw him. You're right, Drew. And it's not just he played well against Greensboro. He played well against Cal, against Tulsa, against Mississippi State, even against Nebraska. So he had a good stretch of 4 games against pretty decent teams there. But the fall off lately has been pretty telling, and you can see it in the body language. You can see it. I'm not a big fan of body language reading, but you can see it. But you got all this debate. It's not going to be either or with Castillo in him or Nate Johnson in him. It's going to have to be and or for this team to be good. Like PJ Haggerty is going to have to be our best player most of the time for this team to make the NCAA tournament. It's not going to be him riding the bench and playing 20 minutes a game. Like if people think that's going to happen, they're delusional. They've got to get the value of him that they invested in him, and they haven't gotten it often in the last 5 games. We need to get that back. They need to figure that out. They need to figure out, the adjustments. The first half, the high double teams they were getting left Abdi Bashir wide open, and he was making threes. When they don't get that 3 makes, you go 111 in the second half. What's the next adjustment? And I think that's kind of the next step offensively for this coaching staff to make, is how they're going to make that next adjustment to be efficient on offense when those 3 stop falling or when they take that away.
In terms of some of the other guys, because obviously Andre Kostic, you're not going to get a real answer out of Jerome Tang on why he's not playing, at least to the extent of what would suffice. And I like that. That's hurting K-State right now, is having a guy that they had to have thought when they were bringing him over was going to be a no doubt about it rotation guy for them, and he hasn't played. And that's why you have moments like, Taj Manning logging 13 minutes today was kind of surprising. CJ Jones minutes down a little bit, which is good news for most. He only played 7 of them today.
That's also what makes the Andre Kostic thing so frustrating, is he can't be worse than what we've seen from CJ Jones for most of the year.
Yeah, and it's not like CJ Jones has even played good defense when he's been out there, which is why I think they were trying to play him. But the defense hasn't been there to help him work things out. So you have that going on. The other guy in this equation is Nate Johnson, who got off to a better start today, did a lot of other things for K-State. He had 4 steals, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. The shooting still struggling a little bit, and his game and performance has obviously slipped from the first 3 of the year, where he went for over 20 against UNCG and Cal, and played well in that Mississippi State game, but since then has had his share of struggles against the better competition. So what do we make of Nate Johnson and what he's going through? And is it as simple as saying, same thing for Haggerty? You've taken a jump in competition where you're going to play more of these teams, even in the non-con, and then obviously this team's 19 days away from playing 18 straight games against really good basketball teams in the Big 12. So where do you guys see Nate Johnson's struggles?
It is a little bit of what's going on with PJ Haggerty, except I think with Nate Johnson, it's even more drastic because the MAC is terrible at basketball. Like they will occasionally have a team that comes in and wins a game or two in the NCAA tournament. But I mean, Akron last year was head and shoulders the best team in the MAC and got just absolutely whacked by Arizona in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So I think that his is really just taking an even bigger step up in the talent department of what he's facing every night. But sometimes I think it's just he is so athletic that I think that he doesn't quite realize how athletic he was or he is. Because there are times too where he gets to the rim and looks a little bit lost and like he doesn't know what to do. And I think that's why he blew the layup today, was that he thought that he could probably dunk it, but then was so far away from the basket that he kind of got stuck in the air. So I think that he will be fine because he does so much other things well. Like you said, the 4 steals, the 6 assists, where with Haggerty recently, if you're not getting points, you're not getting anything else.
Yeah, my biggest thing with Johnson is I think he's kind of played how I thought he would. Like this is about the transition I kind of expected out of him. And I think he's given mostly good minutes. My biggest surprise with him is he's not very good at drawing fouls. I thought he would be getting to the free throw line more because he does a pretty good job of getting inside the defense at times, but he doesn't. And this is, I think, we've critiqued Tang's comments in the media sometimes, but he did call out Nate Johnson for wanting him to be much more aggressive in the non-con, and he has a couple times during the season or preseason and during the season he's mentioned it. And I think he's right. I think he seems to sometimes not know how good he can be as far as being able to score, get to the rim, get into the lane. And I think that's what I want to see more from him, is being more proactive. But he does the stat stuffer stuff: assists, rebounds, steals. Like he's doing all those things really well. He's a very good on-ball defender. But I do think the efficiency of getting a little bit better at finishing at the rim and getting to the free throw line are the two things that he probably needs to make the next step on.
Yeah, we'll see. The 2 of those 3 are going to be key moving forward because at this point, like I chalk Andre Kostic up to a lost cause. If he's not able to play in these games, I don't know why we would expect Jerome Tang to be able to change it up and throw him out there once conference play begins. But K-State gets the 83-76 win over Creighton today. Good shooting performance for K-State. Didn't turn the ball over. And, hey, they out-rebounded the team on both accounts. So that's pretty good as well, given what K-State has done with the track record over the Jerome Tang era. Some of the other things that I wanted to hit on real quick before we get out of here, we won't be here forever or mess around. Obviously, today was a game that I love to watch, at least in the first half for K-State. K-State got up 17 threes. They were falling, and when you take a lot of threes and they go down, basketball looks really pretty. When they don't fall, it makes it look not as fun, and that's why, when you watch an NBA game, there are times where you go, oh, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. Like, they do some really awesome things, but because of what you have to do to win games there, and it's take a lot of those shots, if you're not making shots that night, then it does look really ugly and really boring. But K-State had a good night tonight, and they're going to have more like that. Like this team, the ceiling is always going to be there to win against anybody in the league. We saw that last year. It's just we saw them lose to Bowling Green, not even like close, but they got blown out at home by Bowling Green. So that's going to scare people. You didn't have a great fight in Indiana, who's not like an overwhelmingly good team. Seton Hall, you should have bounced back and beat them coming off the losing streak. They didn't. That's not good. And then today you build a 20-point second half lead and you let it crumble all the way down to where everybody thinks you are going to lose this game. And to me, that's going to ultimately still be the story of this game, is that there was enough today where it was a can't lose for K-State. If they lose, the chances of them making the NCAA tournament next to none, because they probably would go 9-9 in Big 12 play. Keep in mind, they'd have to lose a 10th game in the Big 12 tournament. That would put them at 15 losses. Not many teams have gotten in as an at-large with 15 losses. So this at least kept the dream alive, and it means you're going to need to go probably 10-8 if you're K-State in the Big 12, maybe better than that to get in and give yourself a chance. So it kept you on life support, but really nothing that we saw today from K-State changes what I think of them, and it's that I don't think they're going to have enough in them to actually play well enough consistently in the Big 12 to get back to the NCAA tournament.
I'll give you a counterpoint. They technically don't have to lose a game in the Big 12 tournament.
Well, but then they wouldn't be an at-large, so they would be in. So
but if you look at
they in the 30-some years of the Big 12, have they ever won the Big 12 tournament?
No, but why not this year?
Because Jerome Tang is coaching them.
But if you look at where everything is at this year, you're exactly right. Like this game was a can't lose game. It was a can't lose game for both sides. Like this year for Creighton now looks like a lost cause because you're already at 5 losses in the non-conference. So going forward, it's just can't lose these next 2, and the road to 10-8 probably means they got to steal that BYU game to start Big 12 play.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, if you're trying to boost any resume there, that's the game where like you're going to have an opportunity provided to you. If you're interested in the other stuff you talked about, all the other games that Creighton had lost outside of Baylor were against really good teams. Gonzaga blew them out, 27-point differential. Lost only by 7 to Baylor, got beat by 18 against Iowa State, got beat by 21 against Nebraska last week. Today, only 7 against K-State. So that kind of shows you the disconnect there. And Nebraska just pulled off a very impressive win at the buzzer in Champaign today. They have won now, going back to last year, 15 straight games and are 11-0 this season. So Nebraska is still playing really good basketball. That's probably K-State's best performance this year. That and the Mississippi State game. In hindsight, like it sucks they lost, but we can go in and say, well, Nebraska was actually pretty good. You can look though at some of the other teams, and Indiana's a little bit questionable. They lost back-to-back games before beating Penn State earlier this week, so maybe I think they'll end up being fine. But it was a missed opportunity there, and then we're going to continue to see how Seton Hall progresses through their season. They haven't played since last weekend. They play Rutgers tonight, which they should probably win. A very telling game for them, though, is going to be starting next week. They play Providence, Villanova. The schedule really picks up for them with Big East play.
I will also add that analytics and metrics are really funny because K-State won by almost 60 points Monday night and won up 1 spot in KenPom, and today they win by 7 points on the road against a not great Creighton team and went up 8 spots.
Yeah,
it's just funny how it works.
And for the question about is Bowling Green good? No, they're not. They lost to Davidson, William & Mary. Utah Valley right after they beat K-State. They played some non-D1 school on Sunday. But yeah, they're not very good.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, Utah Valley I'm not trying to prop them up by any means, but Utah Valley is a pretty good team. Like that, I think they lost 1 game in the WAC last year, so it's not like that's a great league. But I had looked that up because I thought Utah Valley, that's going to be some awful low major, but they're a good low major, which is not a good team. Now, I will say Cal and Tulsa are 19-0 against any teams not named K-State. So I don't think either have really great wins, but they're still winning games. Tulsa just beat New Mexico State in a neutral site game, which was a decent little win for them. So and those are going to be good net games. Like I think, this will put K-State, this will probably still go down as a quad 1 win. So you'll take that. I mean, I think the key looking forward to me as I look toward the Big 12, this gives me some hope you can go win at a place like Arizona State or West Virginia or TCU or even Oklahoma State. Like those are the games you got to win probably 3 out of those 4 road games to be an NCAA tournament conversation. Then you got to win one of your tougher home games against a BYU or a KU, or I can't remember which other of the top teams we play at home.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the path. And then you got to win you can't have another Bowling Green or even another Seton Hall where you stub your toe against a team you should beat at home. But I mean, it's unlikely. It's not a great place to be, but really, I think most of us were hoping 10-3 as the floor in the non-conference. It's going to probably be 9-4, which is not where we'd hope to be. But it's maybe one game back of where maybe we thought this team would be going into the Big 12. So it's disappointing. It's still not where this team wants to be, but you get a decent road win, and hopefully you can build off that. Yeah. The next 2 games, if you lose the next 2 games, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, you can't lose those 2. You got to manhandle South Dakota and ULM, who are both terrible. Those are like bottom tier quad 4 games. And I hate to tell you this, Creighton's closer to being, about just as close to being a quad 3 game as it is a quad 1 game. They're 102nd in the net entering today. So they're actually the worst of the quad 2s that K-State will play. So
that's good context.
Yeah. I mean, like that's a little like I really think as bad as Creighton looks, like we're talking about a team that they could end up in quad 3. And you're right on the record thing, but I think we said 10-3, assuming that Nebraska would be probably a quad 1, Indiana would be a quad 1, and Creighton would be a quad 1. And we thought those would be it. It's tougher to look at the 9-4 and go, oh, well, you're just a game off, when it includes a loss to Seton Hall, who's going to be a quad 2 game at best, and then Bowling Green, which is going to be quad 3 all year long. That's where like they make it tough on themselves within the metrics, but as long as you win enough games in the Big 12, it doesn't really matter. They'll overlook that for it, but K-State's going to have to win. And I think you saying days like today give you hope that they can go on the road and win it in Arizona State or Oklahoma State or TCU. That pretty well encapsulates how this team is performing right now, because those are games that, like, I think you absolutely have to go win if you're K-State right now, or those should be wins if you're going to make the tournament. And so the fact that, like, we're kind of wishy-washy on it, it goes to show the state that K-State is in right now. But we'll see how things progress for them.
I mean, it's also just, and we say this every year in the Big 12, but like right now, look at K-State's remaining games. Like there is enough there that if they can rattle off some good wins, the only games that you look at like you need to win because they would be really bad for your net ranking would be the home game against Utah, home against Cincinnati, home against West Virginia, because those are 3 quad 3s. Like even right now, going on the road to Colorado is a quad 1 win. Would be a quad 1 win. So like
darlings Colorado.
It's going to be wild to see how it all kind of rolls off, but it is all still right there in front of them. And I think that some of that helps of like Tulsa and Cal being much better than everybody anticipated. Like K-State fans got to be like the biggest fans in the world of Tulsa and Cal the rest of the way.
Yeah. Did you guys know that Colorado is yet to play a game in front of more than 9,000 fans this season?
That is not shocking.
And prior to, last Saturday, they hadn't played a game in front of more than 6,600 yet this season. They've got a pretty light schedule. Their best games this year are Providence, Washington, and Colorado State, if that gives you any indication. But they're 45th in the net right now. So we'll see how it goes for K-State. It kept a little bit of interest left in this thing, but the next 2 games, you just can't lose them. They're not going to matter a ton. It's going to come down to, do you get that re-energizing win a couple of days after New Year when BYU comes to town? And then after that game, like that starts that stretch where we say, there are going to be a lot of gettable games there for K-State, because you get, well, really the first half of Big 12 play is all games where you're either playing good teams, but it's at home, or teams that you could be able to beat on the road outside of Arizona. But BYU at Arizona State, UCF at O State, Utah, Kansas at West Virginia, Iowa State at TCU, Cincinnati. Like, K-State has to start really strong and make it feel like the season doesn't really start until February 14th when they go to Houston, and then things get a little bit interesting. Like, you've got to keep it going and get it to that point with people still feeling like there's a chance for, okay, now we understand what's in front of K-State. Like, there's just zero room for error for them, and it's the third straight year that they've created that scenario for themselves, and that's what that makes it so infuriating and not even enjoyable to watch them.
And I will even say, like, I get that Oklahoma State is kind of like the early darling of Big 12 play right now, but like, it's not like they are looking super impressive either at the moment. Like,
it's a tough situation for them to lose to Oklahoma today. You kind of needed to win that one, because I don't think Oklahoma's anything special.
No, that's one of the better teams that Oklahoma State has played so far this year, and they lost to Oklahoma. So, like, we'll see, because a lot of these teams have really good metrics, but outside of like the top 5 of the Big 12, I would say every team is pretty similar. Like, on any given night, anybody can beat anybody. As Brett Yormark says, that's no nights off.
Yeah. Shout out to that guy. All right. Well, we'll get out of here, and we'll talk to everybody again throughout the week with all of our regular KSO content, and you can find more reaction from this game over at KStateOnline.com and on 3. And we probably won't go live unless something disastrous happens after bye games against some of the worst teams you can find in college basketball this year. So we may not have another one of these until January 3rd against BYU. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But K-State gets the win 83-76 over Creighton today, keeps a little bit of the dream alive, and at least put together a nice performance and got the win, which is always important. So for Drew Galloway, KSU fan, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching and listening to K-State Online. We'll be back on Monday.